Hey guys, Dustin here. So a couple weeks ago I went to the movies and I saw 28 Years Later. I was really excited to go because I absolutely loved the original 28 Days Later. It's some of my favorite cinematography. I love the music in that film, and it's a film that has just really kind of stuck with me for a long time. So I was excited to go see 28 Years Later. But one thing that kind of stuck out to me in the discussion of this film was that I saw a lot of headlines claiming that it was shot on an iPhone. And a lot of those headlines I thought are kind of misleading, and I wanted to unpack that a little bit and talk about what it means for a film to be shot on an iPhone and why we should approach those sort of headlines with a bit of healthy skepticism. All right, let's get started. When I first heard that 28 Years Later used iPhones for some of its scenes, my mind immediately went to the original 28 Days Later. I thought, okay, this is probably a callback. Because if you know anything about 28 Days Later, you know that its look is iconic. It has this raw, jagged, almost news footage aesthetic that I think completely changed how zombie and apocalypse films could feel. Danny Boyle and cinematographer Anthony Dodd Mantle made that look by shooting almost entirely on the Canon XL1, which was a standard definition mini DV camera that honestly was already a bit outdated at the time. And I think they did this not because it was the cheapest option, but because it had a quality that served the story. It was light, it was mobile, and its digital noise, harsh contrast, and blown out highlights all made London look like an abandoned, dangerous place. It wasn't pretty, and that was the point. So when I heard 28 Years Later used iPhones, I assumed the logic was the same. A modern lo-fi tool for a modern apocalypse. I figured they wanted that slightly imperfect, slightly of the moment look that's hard to get with an expensive cinema rig. But here's where it gets kind of tricky. I think the iPhone doesn't look gritty the way the mini DV did. The image processing on a phone is designed to smooth things out, to sharpen the edges, and to boost saturation. Basically the opposite of the XL1's chaotic digital smear. An iPhone shot wants to look clean and high res, even when you try to break it down in post. So I thought maybe it was about authenticity instead. Maybe they wanted the feel of real-world phone footage, the kind of video we've all seen online. In certain contexts, I think that's a great way to pull the audience closer to the action. But then I started looking at the behind-the-scenes photos, and we're not talking about Danny Boyle pulling an iPhone out of his pocket mid-scene. We're talking about an iPhone mounted to a very expensive anamorphic lens, a matte box, a follow focus, external monitor, and all of the other accessories. In other words, all that's really left of the phone is the sensor. And this is where I have to stop and ask, what is the iPhone actually contributing at that point? You've bypassed its lens, you've overridden most of its processing, you've locked it into a cinema workflow. So what's left that makes it worth using over like a Sony FX3, a Red Komodo, or even a Blackmagic pocket camera? All of those cameras could be just as small, just as mobile, but with a cleaner, more cinematic image. In interviews that I've seen with Danny Boyle, he's consistently mentioned that a big justification of using the iPhone was to keep a smaller, more mobile footprint on set. So they can be nimble and they don't have to move a ton of gear every time they go to a new location. Which I get to some extent, I guess, but it's also a $60 million budget film. So I feel like when you have a budget like that, I don't know if you really need to keep things as light as possible. I think that's like more applicable to someone making like an independent short film or a documentary or something like that. There's also this other BTS shot that I saw that features 20 iPhones mounted in a curved hand-holdable frame. And if you watch the film, you'll be able to see how they utilize this sort of rig. But even here I have to wonder, why not mount 20 mirrorless cameras and get more latitude, more dynamic range, and less rolling shutter? I think this is where the marketing starts to blur the reality. Danny Boyle has openly said that 28 Years Later used other cameras too. The whole film isn't shot on iPhones, but so much of the conversation online just runs with the shot on iPhone label as if it's all encompassing. And I get it, that's a great marketing hook. Apple loves it, the media loves it, and it makes the film sound groundbreaking. but I think the truth is more complicated. Now, are there films that have made phones an organic part of their storytelling? Absolutely. Tangerine is the classic example. Sean Baker used an iPhone 5S not just for budget reasons, but because it let him shoot fast on the streets of LA, blending into the environment and capturing moments that would have been impossible with a big crew. Steven Soderbergh's Unsane used an iPhone to create a confined, slightly warped perspective that matched its psychological tone. And in both cases, you could feel that the phone was part of the creative DNA of the project. With 28 years later, I'm not convinced that's the case. I think there's some great cinematography in this movie, absolutely, but I also think the iPhone shots didn't always integrate seamlessly with the rest of the footage. The mix of traditional cinema cameras and phone footage didn't always feel cohesive to me, and I didn't think the iPhone brought either the grit of 28 Days Later or the verite intimacy of something like Tangerine. I'm not against using phones in big budget films. Far from it. I just think there should be a clear, story-driven reason for it. If it's about mobility, there are plenty of cinema options just as small. If it's about texture, the iPhone's clean, computational image isn't necessarily your best choice. If it's about realism, then I say commit to that look. Don't hide it behind an anamorphic lens and a full rig. So yes, I think we should be celebrating the fact that a $1,000 phone can shoot a Hollywood feature, but let's also keep a bit of healthy skepticism about the shot on iPhone headline, because the real question isn't what you shot it on, it's why. But this is also certainly an opinion piece. I don't have all of the information, I don't know all of the scenes and how they were filmed with which cameras, so maybe there were scenes that were filmed with iPhones in this film that were perfectly justifiable. All right, that's gonna do it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.